Hi there. I wanted to hop on quickly and make this video about glutes and about why all these programs, quick fixes, promises to get the perfect glute, this peach bum that everyone seems to be striving for, is actually wrong. And people are profiting off this incorrect information. And I think it's quite important to address this. The structure and shape of your glutes is determined primarily by your skeletal structure. Your skeletal structure is something that you are born with. It is determined genetically. It's from, where you come from. It is not something that you can change. So you can alter the appearance of your glutes absolutely by training and by growing the muscles, and also by reducing body fat, which will make them more defined. But the shape of your glutes or the shape of your buttocks, that you are kind of constricted unless you have cosmetic interference. You're not going to change the general shape too dramatically. I like to think of this in a way, I like watching these videos where they exhume skeletons of people that have been dead for hundreds of years perhaps, and they don't have any information about them other than their location. And using a skull, they are able to recreate the face of this person that died hundreds of years ago. And I've always found that fascinating. And the reason that they are able to do this is because the skeletal structures or the anatomy of the skull dictates what the overlying tissues are going to look like. And that determines what the person's face looks like. So our skulls, just like the rest of our bodies, is unique to us. So why then do you think that a person's backside is going to look exactly the same as somebody else's backside when the underlying skeletal structures are unique to that individual? It's exactly the same thing. So we can kind of narrow down structures to about 4 different shapes. This has been identified by plastic surgeons. So you have your square glute shape, and this is normally found in people that have got higher hip bones, so longer legs and a shorter torso, and a longer femoral head. I'll show you a picture just now just to show you where those structures are. And those often are accompanied by hip dips. So that's another thing that I've seen a lot on social media, is how to get rid of hip dips, as if they are a bad thing, when it is just simply a function of your skeletal anatomy or a result of that anatomy. And that is how the tissues lie over that underlying support structure. They're not a bad thing. They just are. Just like we are born with a certain color of hair or color of eyes, it is genetic. And a lot of times in these videos, you'll see these influencers showing a before and after picture. And we all know by now how much angle and lighting and posing can alter the appearance of a photograph. It's not real and it's not true. And it's important that you are informed and you make informed decisions. So the length of the femoral head here, as well as the shape and orientation of the pelvis, are going to be the structures that determine the shape of the glutes. So for example, a person that has got high hip bones often has a long femoral head here. So what this means is that the space between the greater trochanter, or this part of the femur, and this crest or spine of the pelvis is going to be greater. Now that greater distance between these two structures is going to mean that the overlying tissues will often dip in slightly because that structure is not underneath there to support those tissues outwards. So there you get hip dips, which is why people viewing hip dips as aesthetically unpleasing, I think, is rather ridiculous, to be honest, because it just is. You either have them or you do not have them. And it's a function of your anatomy. So going back to these 4 general shapes of glutes. So you've got the square glute shape. As I explained, high hip bones, generally a longer femoral head, and often accompanied with hip dips. And in this body type, the person tends to put weight on above the hip bone. So that lower back fat or love handles. Then you have the round glute shape. So the round glute shape tends to have more fat distribution across the middle of the glute, a medium width pelvis, and normally a naturally smaller waist. So that lends itself to this rounder look of the buttock. Your third shape is the heart shape. So this is considered the most feminine of the buttock shapes, and it tends to be the one that is most desired as far as cosmetic surgeons and surgery is concerned. So with this, you tend to have more fat distribution towards the bottom of the glute and that narrower waist, which creates that upside down or inverted heart shape. So a person with this shape tends to put more weight on or tends to deposit fat more on the upper thighs, in other words, the saddlebags. So that is somebody that you wouldn't see who is probably more of a so-called pear shape with the small upper torso coming down to that fuller lower body. The fourth glute shape, which is characterized, is the V glute shape. So with this shape, the person generally has more weight distribution again across the top of the pelvis, and then the bottom of the glute kind of falls away a little bit. So we tend to see this shape more with changes due to hormonal changes, advancing age, and also extreme weight loss. So knowing that we are pretty much stuck or constrained to somewhat as to what the shape of our buttocks would look like, yes, we can still improve their aesthetic appearance by, as I've said, building muscle and reducing body fat overall. As we know, we cannot spot reduce body fat. So in order to do this, you need to have a properly structured training program, and that's something that I am working on at the moment to help you assess your weaknesses, assess where your imbalances are, and to train in a way that is effective for you. Work within your framework, manage your expectations, and have a realistic expectations of the results that you will get. One size fits all kind of glute program is not going to be effective, is not going to be efficient. We need to understand that we are all unique, and we need to work within our framework or our reference. And while training the glutes is often done because we want to improve the aesthetic appearance of the glute should be trained regardless, because strong, correctly functioning glutes are crucial to our stability, to our agility, to our balance, to the production of power if we're an athlete, it is an integral part of the stability and of the underlying joints, so of the knees, of the ankles. People who are prone to possibly twisting or spraining their ankles, or suffer from knee pain, or have shin splints, or have hip pain, or have lower back pain, most of the time, by addressing the function of the glutes, we can reduce this pain. And while it would be completely naive of me to say that we should train purely for function as opposed to aesthetic value, because as humans we are greatly influenced by aesthetics, and it is why all these Instagram models, fitness influencers do so well. It's because we like to look at things that look nice, and we kind of want to emulate that as well. I do think it would be a healthier position to train from the perspective of having a better functioning body, to reduce the amount of pain that we have in our body, to increase our longevity of being mobile, to reduce our risks of losing our balance and falling as we become older, to have happier lives, and to just love the body that we live in because it works so well for us, and because we feel strong and capable. And when we feel strong and capable, we are empowered and our confidence grows, and that is the beauty of training correctly and seeing the results. The aesthetic appeal is one side, and I understand that that is important for most of us, but it's that function and that feeling that is not transient and that will remain as we age, and when our looks change and alter, we will maintain that feeling of strength and that feeling of being in charge of our lives and our bodies, because our body moves and functions beautifully the way that it was designed to do.